Hello and good day, brothers and sisters. Today, I'm back out here in the Colorado Prairie, and behind me, we can see the Front Range once again, and it's a beautiful sight to see with the Cheyenne Mountains and Pikes Peak in view there. Truly blessed to be out here this morning. Very warm. Okay, well today I wanted to go back to a previous talk I had done on racism, the first part, and address something I had said. So if you haven't watched my talk on racism, I invite you to watch that first part now. In this talk right here, part 2, I'm gonna go more into depth at what I said in the first one at right about 12 minutes and 20 seconds. And at this point in the talk, I had mentioned human being as being defined as human, the man of many colors. And at face value, this seems contradictory to the entire video where I explained that man isn't colors or isms generally. So I wanted to go back about and just talk about this one more time. Now, for this quick bit, it would be rather helpful to anyone to have a understanding, even a mild understanding of resonant frequency and how the specific frequencies can be exhibited through any or all of the physical or non-physical mediums in reality, like smell, touch, taste, basically all the ways we experience reality. Now, for example, how fast food companies commonly use yellow because yellow is the frequency of hunger. And seeing yellow activates parts in your brain, encouraging you to eat. Now, how many institutions use a type of taupe color to activate calmness and subservience? And even how using cold temperatures to achieve a similar effect. Now, it's not magical, it's science, but it's pure manipulation of reality. And if you ask me, it's a type of sorcery, and it's all around us. Now, regardless, this is the same thinking of science we need to consider when we're looking at the root word, hue, from the word human. This sorcery they use is all about the power of words and their spelling. Now, going back to ancient times, to the early Sanskrit, Jainism, Prakrit, Tamil, we know from these texts that to raise the spirit, we must offer our oblation or sacrifice of some sort. We must raise the fire inside, which has been referred to as hue, meaning to sprinkle on, to sacrifice, to offer oblation to God. So hue is a word in ancient times used to reference God when offering our oblation or sacrifice. Now, because of resonant frequency, sound plays an important part in lifting people up, much like Aum. Hue has been used for thousands of years for prayer, chanting mantra, and singing hymns to align the individual with the frequency of God. Now, in earlier times, hue is used in Arabic form, huwa, meaning he, and while grammatically masculine, it's used as a personal name for God in Sufism. Now, this variation is meant to recognize God from the third person, so hue is used in Sufism to avoid attribution of a gender to God because the Most High of all has no gender. According to grammar, it's nonsense, but if you understand Islam or have read the Quran or anything Sufism, then you know that hue is the essence of essence, said to be the secret name of God, the foundation to all creation, he. So hue stands for the essence itself. It stands for he who is absent. Now, as hue has found its way into several cultures, it's also found its way into Egypt. Hu, in ancient Egypt, was the personification of the first word, the word of creation, similar concept of, Aum, with the Hindus and Indians. Now, Hu is in the Old Kingdom Pyramid text, and it's in part 251 and part 679. It's a companion of the deceased pharaoh, together with Saya. He was depicted in the retinue of Thoth, and with whom he was also occasionally identified. So in the Middle Kingdom, all gods participated in Hu and Saya, and they were associated with Ptah, who created the universe by uttering the word of creation. Hu was depicted in human shape as a falcon, as a man with a ram's head. In the New Kingdom, both Hu and Saya, together with Heka, Ire, Sejum, they were all members of the 14th creative powers of Amun-Ra. And by the time of Ptolemaic Egypt, Hu has merged with air. These examples from ancient texts of the utterance Hu are only relevant because of the resonant frequency and the electromagnetic fields that we create in reality when we speak it. There are no accidents, there are no coincidences. Hu from a resonance means something, and that something has found its way across time and culture, keeping the truth that God is in man and is exhibited in this word formation, human. Now, at face value, mainstream, accepted meanings, and available etymology, according to Oxford and Webster, they aren't going to address the physics and psychology we just breezed over. Now, when we look, we can see the word over time, and officially it has deteriorated from its original use. And it has changed subtly until all of a sudden it meant something quite a bit different from its original ancient meanings. But let's just take a look and see if we can still find some connection there. Now, from ancient Egypt till now, there's Middle English, or Old English of 1653, which defined hue as an appearance or a form, shape, figure, species. And West Germanic giving us the form, shape, and appearance also. And then suddenly, Proto-Europeans gave us skin, the color of skin, cognate with the Swedish high for complexion of skin. So, of course, now in modern times, we look at the definition of hue and all the words that surround it, and we see something far from the original meaning. And apparently, it's giving a hand in this ism called racism. Now, because hue is essentially defined as a color or the attribute that gives color, it exhibits a society filled with people who only understand the physical, people whose minds are only conscious of the physical that's right in front of them. Now, to tie the spiritual and the physical together, there's some reasoning to identifying people with color, but done with wisdom, from a much more reasonable, loving position than that of the spiritually blind racist. Now, when we consider the science behind resonant frequency and consider any of the many spiritual texts, we know that the esoteric meanings to colors are directly related to sound and spiritual energy. Physics tells us that sound is a resonant frequency and color is a resonant frequency. God is radiant of the pure white light. We can divide that light into 7 sacred frequencies or colors, which represent the holy light that sits on the lampstands or the chakras within the body, by which both require the secretion of the sacred oil from the pineal gland. Now, there's much to consider in this realm of light, sound, etc. But my statement that hue man meant man of many colors, I just meant in many cultures and or under one form under God. Though it really didn't sound like that, and so now here we are. And since we're here just for fun, let's consider the spiritual meaning for ancient humans, or excuse me, the ancient meaning for hue. Now, my personal thinking is that hue in Sanskrit means God, and in Sanskrit, man means mind or consciousness. So hue man by these standards means God in mind or God in consciousness. Or if we consider the context of the oblation or sacrifice, for me, knowing that the higher self, the Atman, or the Christ, has sacrificed its ability to be here on earth so we can be here in this form as individuals, having the experience of a lifetime. I mean, just literally, right? And so this forgotten truth is still loud and clear when we understand a little bit about the origins of the word human, right? Another way we might understand this is knowing God is light, and hue also refers to light in the form of colors, but as variations of the one. So etymology shows us that the spirit of God, your soul, is in this specific form, your body, which reflects all of creation. So we are spiritual light beings in physical form. We are various images of what we call God. A step further, let's take the term human being. Now, to be means it is, and suffix ing means in activity. So human being is the action of God in the form of the physical man, right? It could also be understood as God's mind in activity and would align with the idea that we're all just a thought in the mind of the Most High, right? After all, thoughts have been viewed as light, and we know that light is just information in a different frequency. Now, considering all of this, it's a lot of information, knowing that there is only one species, right, which is divided by ism in the race, and that natural human beings, as is told from thousands of years of text and from culture and from different times, and it shows in biology and now the literary sciences, which is that a human being is the biological character which normally has the ability to speak or exhibit the sacred sound. They have a high capacity for abstract thinking and possess a soul inside the biological body that creates a spirit which transcends this physical body. A healthy natural human being shows itself to be structural, reasonable, and spiritual. Sick natural human beings are unorganized chaos and endowed with abyssal reasoning and limited senses and unbounded in irrationality. So a natural human structure, healthy or sick, is the foundation out of which value claims arise and universal principles are defended. Now, for me, it's super important to know that a natural human being is not the result of editing or otherwise alteration of the genetics, blood type, the RNA from its original healthy or sickly state to a transhuman state, which typically includes modifying, removing, and or adding genetic material. Now these alterations are definitely transhuman, especially if they include the use of neurological, biological, and nanotechnologies, which does edit or otherwise affect the genetics, blood type, or RNA of the natural human from its original state. So anyway, my point here is this issue of racism is a made-up issue in the minds of weak humans and compromised humans. And we shouldn't be attacking each other because of melanin content or cultural differences. We are the same species. That's the effects of ism. And instead, we should be standing up against the separation of man, against the mutilation of our minds and our bodies by the use of ism against us. And if you let ism control you, then you let ism control you. That's your choice. I realize it's not easy to defy your programming, to defy the authority, but it is possible, and it is necessary. Now, the system in modern times, for some weird reason, has made some odd jumps from the sensible definition of man to defining man as a monkey. But they also ignore ancient times, ancient texts rather, that defy Hugh and define Hugh as earth. Because later down the road, they have, made the opposite points with the ancient etymology states. Modern takes have removed God and grouped us erroneously with monkeys. It's ism hard as work. It's a deep hole, really. The etymology and the works behind words like male, female, man, woman, all of these are very well hidden abstracts, just like the people identifying with colors. So, be careful. These things are the reason why nearly everyone is suffering from identity crisis. Nobody knows who they are. And that's right, I'm not just talking about the gender dysphoria taking place. It's a much broader issue than that, much more serious. Now, I will say, Webster does identify the human race by, which would insist that there only is one race, which is actually correctly a species. But if it insists on the existence of one race, then what other race is there for races to fight about? Are there different levels of melanin that are a clear indication that somehow someone's an alien? Are we gonna pretend that because someone crossed an imaginary line on the map that was placed by ism that they're now from another planet? Is that why we call people from other countries aliens? So it makes it easier to violate them and treat them so hatefully? Or can we all sensibly agree that we're all from the same species? Now, these isms, these falsehoods, they blur the lines, they hide the truth, and it impacts your psyche. It shapes who you are. Hidden isms are implanted in your being through various techniques. And if you haven't watched my video on ism, then maybe check that one out next. That way we can all have an understanding, a better understanding at least, of what exactly ism is and how it's destroying humankind. It's pretty short and I hope pretty worth it. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I really hope this has been somewhat informative or at least turn on the wheels of thinking. Again, this is an additional piece to a piece I already done. There's a part 1, this is part 2. If you haven't checked that out, you definitely should have checked that out first. Thank you again. Thank you for listening. Stay conscious, stay blessed, and God bless.